The thing you might rightly be wondering is why? Why is this happening? What exactly has changed? Well, quite a bit as it happens. See, the real problem here is that there are pretty strict rules around what you can and can't show in mainstream movies. And I'm not talking about boobs and violence like in the old days. I'm talking about the unwritten rules behind the scenes that basically exist to make sure their movies don't incur the wrath of journalists, the news media, or the endless Twitter mobs just waiting for the next thing to get offended about. In this case, one of the golden rules is that women are never allowed to lose to men at anything for any reason. Whether it's a physical fight, a test of skill or intelligence, or even a simple argument. Pick basically any scenario where a woman gets pitted against a man, and I can pretty much guarantee you the woman will come out on top. She'll either outsmart the man in a battle of wits, or get the last word in an argument, or kick his ass in a fight regardless of their relative size and strength. Whatever it might be, the rules dictate that no man can beat a woman in a balanced engagement because the natural implication would be that men are smarter or stronger or generally better than women, and we certainly can't have that. Now this is all well and good, but it creates a very obvious problem when your hero happens to be female and your villain male. Traditional storytelling requires the antagonist to start out stronger and more dangerous than the hero, forcing them to grow and improve themselves in some way before finally prevailing at the end. But naturally, this process requires the man to be dominant in the early stages, and as we've already discussed, that's not allowed to happen anymore, even if it's just a temporary thing. So how exactly do you get around it? Well, if you happen to write for Disney, Marvel, DC or Lucasfilm, you don't. Instead, you're forced to make your villains weak and pathetic, either unfairly elevated beyond their abilities, or jealous and envious of the hero's success. It's basically a form of projection, allowing the writers to vent their frustrations about imagined enemies and rivals onto a weak straw man that can be easily swept aside by an all-conquering heroine. Unfortunately, this whole mindset creates more problems than it solves. Weak villains make for weak stories because they rob the narrative of its tension and drama. Even worse, it actually undermines the hero themselves, because if they're never really tested by a worthy opponent, then they haven't really achieved anything. A hero is only ever as strong as the villain they defeat. And what's really interesting is that the problem still exists even if you reverse the roles. Take Thor Ragnarok for example. The villain in that movie is a woman, which is perfectly fine at the beginning when she gets to kick Thor's ass, but it becomes a real problem near the finale when it's time for him to win. You definitely can't show Thor hammering a woman into the ground because that brings up all kinds of unpleasant accusations of glorifying violence against women. So instead, the movie takes the best alternative and has a third party step in to win the battle for him. Notice how they carefully managed to sidestep the uncomfortable issue of Thor defeating her in a fair fight. Just a little something to think about there. The point I'm making is that the reason people didn't warm to characters like Rey or Captain Marvel isn't because of their gender, it's because everything's made so fucking easy for them that it's basically impossible to feel any empathy. It's the same exact problem with Ghostbusters, or Harley Quinn, or Charlie's Angels. If your heroes do nothing but plough their way through a collection of unthreatening, neutered enemies, then you'll never get your audience to care about their struggle, because they don't fucking have one. So what exactly is the solution here? Well, ironically enough, the solution is equality. And I mean real equality, not the bullshit Hollywood version that makes one side artificially weaker just to make the other look superficially strong. If you want your female heroes to be respected equally, then you have to put them through equal struggles against worthy enemies. You need to stop nerfing your villains in a vain attempt to avoid offending people on social media, because honestly, the more you try to appease them, the more you compromise your ability to tell a decent fucking story. If you want kick-ass heroes that people can look up to, then you need to give them kick-ass antagonists they can be afraid of. In short, you need to give your villains their fucking balls back. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now.